Also seeking his best finish, John John Florence, the Hawaiian, the highest scoring surfer of the event so far, with a heat score total of 18.87. He's taking on Caio Ibelli.
He's always so cruisy, but you know, he was fired up after that loss. Good rematch right here.
Well, John taking off under the lip and somehow still alive in this barrel, getting right to the end as that thing clamped up. But his tube riding skills on display from the get-go.
Yeah, he just stood up inside the barrel. So, you know, he didn't even have time to make the drop. He is so crafty, so good at that. Another nice wave here for Caio.
Here we go, the 22-year-old out onto the open face. Wild little rebound there as that wave hollowed out. It doesn't stick that last move though. John John Florence almost coming out of an amazing tube, but Caio is going to get the best opening ride with a little cutback there. Would have been a decent score if he stuck this thing.
So just watching it again, it looked like it wasn't necessarily that he was trying to keep his speed down, as we see John tuck straight in. That was so cool. And you're right there looking at your screen, one of the best, hands down, best tube riders in the world. If anyone would have made that barrel, it probably would have been John. So 1, 2, not even 2 strokes, and he's straight to his feet. So he's literally standing up on his board while the lip is breaking over his head. And so the tricky part there is he didn't have any momentum. He didn't have any speed to make it through that long barrel because he had to take his time even getting to his feet. But John is so talented, he still made it in front of the foam ball and almost made it out, but unfortunately for him, that wave shut down. You can see the opening of the barrel completely clamped shut.
So no real advantage in the opening exchange to either competitor. A 3.67 for Caio Ibelli. John Florence, a 1.57.
And just keep that focus right here.
Movement at the takeoff zone on the inside without priority. Caio on a nice looking wall here, driving up into this first section. Tidy carve. Bit wobbly on that second move, but finishing pretty strong. Getting sideswiped by the whitewater. And here goes John. And he just leans back on the tail, ducks into the pit for a moment, pushes through the curtain. But that won't excite the judges too much, that little tube. Been back in time for priority and this set, but John Florence is going to make use of this empty lineup. Strong first turn. Again, one of those whipping carves. And he makes sure of finishing off this ride, a tricky section to ride clear of, and he doesn't quite get out of that whitewater.
That's not what he wanted. He really wanted to have a nice, clean closing re-entry so that it could be a solid score. But because he didn't ride out of that last move, it's just going to keep it so-so.
Seems like that end section, just the whitewater grabs you, and maybe because there's not too much water covering the refrost, it is hard to commit to actually riding out of that foam.
Yeah, 100%. You have to kind of be on your tippy toes because literally your fins will scrape that rock. But those first 2 carves from John were heavy. Big, major maneuvers. So this is going to be a solid score. First turn right here, a lot of extension on that bottom turn. And now he torques into it. And that's the improvement we've seen from John. We've always labeled him with that kind of whippy type of carve, but he really has technically improved, I believe. He kind of is starting to follow his carves just a little bit more with his upper body. So he's getting that extra length out of it. It's nice to see. It looks great.
One of the things that he said he was working on in the first event of the year was his flow.
Yeah, we just heard from the Water Patrol that he did hit his hipper, and it looks like there's be a bit of a paddle now. And John John's got to get out of there because priority goes to blue. But yeah, he had hurt his hip. Don't know if it was from the board or the reef. Either way, a little slow on that first turn, so it might affect him a little bit.
Well, he's looking for a big finish here. Takes to the air, gets that grab. He had that thing. Landing in some tricky water. John Florence was quick to get in position for this wave after trying to take this one under Caio's priority. And again, he can't quite finish this wave off.
And that's unfortunate to hear about Caio. Physically, he doesn't look like he normally is. You know, he's just, seems like every single time Caio stands up, he looks like he's 100%, but he looks maybe just a little frail. Just a bobble right there. Another little bobble off the bottom. So not really cutting through the water as much as he wanted to. Pretty clean, straight air for him, but as he landed, a lot of turbulence. So it was a tricky landing for Caio, and he came unstuck. There's a little bit of that older school snap from John where he kind of left his arms behind. So not really clicking in with this wave, just a little out of sync. Tried to go for a nice layback snap right there, but you could see that whitewash kind of got sucked away from that boil. I don't see his cage getting rattled. How about yourself?
Well, I haven't seen that in this, but honestly, with the way John John's surfing, like you can see right there, he's not playing into his head, but somebody like Caio is so dangerous that he might just actually get the better of him, you know, in the end with pressure.
And really looking to establish a strong lead early on.
It's fun to talk about, isn't it? Because John is not one of those guys that walks around beating on his chest. You know, he's not kind of a throwback, cheesy, overly competitive surfer. You know, he's fortunate because I really believe that's his demeanor.
And you get the feeling that Caio, he won't make those mistakes if he gets to that section after putting a couple of moves together on the outside. And here he goes now, using priority for this wave. Couple of big calves. So on his way to a decent score already. Let's see if he gets something to work with on the inside. Has already hit the reef once. Doesn't get that steep section. And we heard Geordie Smith talking about that a little bit after his heat win. You're not guaranteed of a ramp on the inside here at Margaret's. You need to get work done while the going's good. And John, with a bizarre little air reverse to start this wave off. It was kind of flat, but cool. And he's still working away at this wall. He's going to get out before Caio too, which is a bonus.
Wow, that was really different, wasn't it? That was something we don't see very often. Air rotation from John, but it was so swift. I mean, he literally did a pirouette in the air. Just kind of trippy. Usually you kind of pop and maybe get off axis, but that was very flat as an air rotator as you can get. But it was cool. It was just all instincts. He was just going for an air, and the section wasn't really curved, so you know, that's what created that natural flat spin. But again, watch as he kind of clicks that front foot. And he's going to get that pop he's looking for right here. There's no real ramp, so he's going to click it right towards the channel. A lot of times you'll see that off-axis rotation air go towards the beach. But what made that maneuver cool, in my opinion, Ron, was how fast it was.
It was cool, but how's it going to score? Pete Mel, did it look good from your angle?
It did, you know, and it had to be creative because that wave had a bunch of froth on the face, but he used the wind to his advantage. That's what he does so well growing up on the North Shore. Offshore breezes pretty much every day. So he knows how to do airs in those types of conditions. And again, up the face as the wind was blowing, he just put the board up there, laid it up there, and that's what helped him pirouette so quickly. And, you know, you're looking at it, and I actually saw the little telegraph kind of in on, well, he's got to do an air right here. And it was not a section you would normally see anybody do an air, but John John sure will. You know he'll do it.
I'm really interested to see how this score is going to drop, Ross, because
you know, it was a nice size wave, but because the wave turned out to be kind of slopey and fat, you know, that's really going to affect the score. They want to see a lot of curve in the face. That's when it's really committed. This second carve right here, watch this, Ronnie. You know what I love about Caio surfing is he kind of presses on both his feet with the same amount of pressure when he rips into his turns. A lot of guys are front-footed or back-footed. Caio has that wider stance, but it's cool because it's so strong. He just looks so planted to his board.
Waiting on the numbers to come through. And it looks like John John will get pretty decent payoff for that first turn option. The number about the drop. Caio's locked in a decent score for his last ride, 7.77. John Florence edges just ahead of him, 7.97.
So, I mean, if judges would have thrown out a 6.5 for that last wave of John, I wouldn't have batted an eye. Just because, like you said, it was kind of a flatter air. It was out in the shoulder more. But it was a set wave, and that was not easy to do, right? But your typical score comes from that critical part of the section.
This wave kind of suits me, and Yeah, I've been surfing a lot. I think that has a lot to do with it, just staying in the water a lot, and tons of fun waves around here. I didn't really surf Margies once the whole time leading up to this, so yeah, I don't know. It's just a really fun wave, and today was perfect, glassy, and killer little right, so yeah, it was just fun.
Let's see, that's advantage round 4.
Thank you, Rosie. As we see some fireworks out at main break now, John Florence and Caio Ibelli exchanging waves. But expect Sebastian Zietz to make a big jump up the ratings from 17th, maybe into the top 10. There's a lot of surfers ahead of Sebastian who have fallen out of the draw, some in the second round, some in the third, who are just above him on the ratings. It's positive signs for the Kauaian.
It really is, and it's great to see Sebastian Zietz with some justification. You know, it's he's one of those guys we always peg as having so much talent but just doesn't quite get the results, so really cool to see him get off to a great start this year. And the waves are kind of freaking me out right now, Ron. It is on fire out there. It looks like so much fun. And Caio, a couple of really big moves there, but again, a tricky inside section. It's not what he wants. He wants the exclamation mark to finish it off, so we'll see how that works with the judges. Better wave here from John. Look at that open blue water face. And that enabled him to rip into a couple of really cool cruisy carves. And that's the John we love. Couldn't help himself with a pretty exciting section right there. Went for a really technical air.
Commit to riding out of those last turns when the rock's starting to pop up out of the water.
I think so. You know, it's a funny section. And for example, that last wave of John's, I think you have to have great reflexes. So he saw something. He saw kind of a ramp, kind of a layback snap section maybe, and he looked like he got stuck between two moves, so he went for kind of an awkward air. So it really is about reflexes, but you don't have the luxury of forecasting a ramp at the end like you would as a skateboarder. You know, you just have to react.
The reason I ask that question is every time I'm on the North Shore, I see 3-year-olds playing on the reef shore break sections at different spots. Well, just over a minute remaining here for Caio Ibelli. He's chasing a 7.78. He's scratching into this one. Gets into this right. He's going to take to the air. Huge frontside air reverse. He sticks it on his way to a big score. Needs more though. Bashes the lip once. This wave's starting to get a little foamy, but he finishes it off. He's celebrating. 45 seconds to go. A 7.78. The requirement.
Well, we're going to tee that air up for you and see how big it was.
Pete Mel was watching this one unfold. How'd it look from the water?
Hey, that was huge. Small wave, but that's all he could have done, and he sure did. He went up and above, landed right on the roof, and glided out. You know, I don't know what to say, but ultimately, he did everything he possibly could on a very, very small wave, and it's going to be really close. I mean, I feel like he got it.
7.78 the requirement. John Florence had his heart broken at Bells by Caio Ibelli, and John already looking a little dejected there. Numbers are coming through, and it is enough for Caio Ibelli by the looks of things. There it is, 8.5. An 8.5 and one of the favourites for the event based off some early round performances. John John Florence goes down for a second time in as many events.
Well, you know, we've been talking about John and his form coming into this heat. You know, he was the guy to beat, but guess what? He came unstuck a number of times. He left that door open, and Caio Ibelli walked right in.